I'm Ari Berman, voting rights reporter for Mother Jones, with an exclusive new video from Documented about a right-wing group leading the GOP.
As 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey everybody, welcome to Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the atheist community of Polk County. I'm Sarah Ray, I'm your host, along with Ali Ashmead tonight, and our special guest, Shanon Nebo. We'll get to all of you in just a moment, but this is Friday, May 21st. We want to make sure we thank our patrons over at patreon.com/polkatheists. If you want to support the show and help us bring you great content and great guests and upgrade our studio equipment and all of that good stuff, you can head over to patreon.com/polkatheists and make a per monthly contribution. And of course, if you can't do that right now, that's okay too. But we would love for you to go rate, review, subscribe anywhere that you can find the show to help us get the word out. Would be fantastic. Ali, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm alive. I'm vaccinated. I think
Yes.
I'm officially vaccinated.
You're past the 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, something like that? Yep. Cool. We just had a board meeting here at the Ray home. It's the first board meeting I think we've had in person since, I don't know, God, a year and a half ago maybe. It's been a while. So that was fun to get everybody together. So our guest tonight is Shanon Nebo. Shanon is the treasurer, among many, many other things, for Recovering from Religion, and we're going to talk about the Recovering from Religion Fall Excursion, which just opened up for people to go register for. I've already registered, so I beat you to it. Shanon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I've talked to like everybody else on your team, so it's fun to finally have you on the show.
I know I'm usually like more of a behind the scenes kind of person. And I decided to kind of step out of my little cave and put on my forward face here and talk to some people today.
I love it. Well, I mean, I would assume our viewers know all about Recovering from Religion, but if you want to hit like the high points and then just sort of talk about like what you do, what your role is there with Recovering from Religion.
So Recovering from Religion has been around for 12 years now, and we provide support for people who are recovering from religion. So this doesn't mean that everyone we serve are atheists or non-believers, but they're usually doubters. We call them sometimes seekers. They're asking questions. Some of them may be non-believers who are trying to figure out how to move forward without religious community. Some are still closeted, still in their religious community. And trying to figure out what to do. We have people kind of on all spectrums of belief. And so we kind of help them through that process. Now, we don't deconvert people. We don't do anything like that. We just help answer their questions because a lot of the people who come to us asking questions have already tried to do this within their religious organization. Right. But if you go to a religious organization and you start asking questions about the theology, you're only going to get answers back that support the perpetuation of belief in that theology. Like, you know, your doubts are just Satan whispering in your ear and other scary things. And that probably does work for a while, but eventually some people do get brave enough to kind of venture outside of that. Hey, Baba. Baba, I am doing a talk right now. Can you go downstairs? Baba, you can peel your own orange.
Oh, I love it.
Close the door, please. Please close the door. Thank you. He can peel his own orange. I'm not being a terrible mother.
Oh, I love it.
All I have to say is at least he had clothes on.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. So, and my husband will be home at any minute, so he'll be able to feel that. But right now is the chaos zone. We don't know what's gonna happen.
Love it.
So that's, we help people who are kind of in that situation. We have the helpline, which people can call, or they can chat in on their computer or their smartphone on the helpline and talk to agents who are trained to help people, to offer them resources, to kind of help talk them through these various scenarios. We have the Secular Therapy Project, which is a listing of therapists who have been thoroughly vetted by our vetting team, who will provide only secular evidence-based therapy. A lot of people have trouble when they're looking for mental health resources. They're looking for therapists. They go into the therapist's office and they see a big cross in the therapist's office, or they don't know when they're going through their treatment, and then the therapist tells them, well, have you tried praying about it? So we offer that. We offer our support groups, which pre-COVID were live meetups, local meetups. So we have groups kind of for different places. Sarah Ray, I think that you are in charge of one of our meetup groups.
I am indeed. Yes. Yeah.
So we have those. Right now we're having those on Zoom meetings. But once things are safe again, we're going to, people will be able to meet up in person again. Let's see, we have a resource team who their whole job is finding resources for people. They put them on our website. Let's see here. Thinking all of them. We have RfRX, which are talks.
Too.
yeah, you've done that too. Where we have talks that are kind of pertinent to what we do. We talk about different things. We have different people, different like secular people, different stories. We have mental health professionals who kind of give like a little overview of how to deal with various kind of common struggles a lot of people have. And we have the Fall Excursion,
Yay.
which is my pet project.
Yeah. So before we move into that, though, like I wanted to kind of go back and just touch on the key about like we're not here to convert people. I think a lot of us who came from a religion, when you think about like what our journeys were, a lot of us didn't go from like hardcore deep believer to atheist like that, right? Like on the journey, there's a lot of like, well, maybe there's still a God, but I don't know that I believe in organized religion, or like I'm not going to go to this church anymore, or maybe I'm going to try a different religion. And so there's this whole path that people can go through and may choose a spot anywhere along that path to sort of open up the folding chair and have a seat for a while. And maybe they stay there for forever. And that's okay too. It's the idea that like, if you have come from a religious experience, which has caused some sort of harm in any way of any magnitude, we want to help you address that and get you over to a healthier, happier you, wherever that puts you in the religious landscape is cool. We want you to be happy and healthy humans, and I love that. Anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We've had progressive Christian volunteers. Now we're always like very careful. We're always like, okay, like that's fine. And if you're happy with that, that's cool. Just be very mindful, not to, and we also, as volunteers, everybody has biases. Everybody has different kinds of biases. And so that's a big part of the training, is training people to not bring your biases into these sessions and these chats, because we're there to help people find their own way. And people really do have to kind of navigate that on their own terms wherever they are.
Yep, absolutely. So that really hits on like all of the things that that RfR does, like services that are provided. So then how does this Fall Excursion fit into this? Now, and I will tell you, I'm super jealous that I didn't get this will be my first one. So you get to like tell me all about it. But the 2019. So I was doing the post-production audio for the Recovering from Religion podcast series with Tim Reimel and Bill Prickett. And we promoted the crap out of this Fall Excursion, and I just wanted to go so bad and I couldn't. But now we finally get to go. Yay. We have like kid sitters and everything, like with just me and the wife, and we're bringing up Mama Ashley Rose, who is our drag queen extraordinaire friend, who is a gay man, former preacher. So he's really looking forward to like what this can bring for him. So just put it all out there. Like, what is this weekend? What do we expect? How does it all go?
So I will say that when we first started this, when we first conceived of this, we weren't sure what to expect. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted for people. What I wanted for people was for them to be comfortable, for them to feel cozy and loved, and to feel like they can really connect meaningfully with others. And to not just connect with other people. And this is another kind of part of the excursion. And it's why it's so important that we have it not in a hotel, but we have it out in cabins. We have it, it's outside in nature, because a lot of times religion takes the world away from us. Religion tells us how to relate to the world, how to see everything around us. And it's painted as, you know, God's splendor and God's paintbrush and God's this. And there's so much wonder to be found in the world, in nature. And God does not have to have anything to do with it. You can have very profound experiences with the world around you. You can have profound experiences watching the sunrise, or you can have a profound experience, you know, just listening to the wind through the leaves. So it's also about kind of reconnecting with your environment on your own terms and seeing it in a light that's not, you know, it's not, religion is not telling you how to see this, how to enjoy it, you know, how to be a human. So it's really about the entire human experience. And that's kind of what I really wanted to capture, was to give people this very nurturing human experience. And so that's what I wanted. And as we're going through it and everything, as we're planning it, you know, of course, like, I'm behind the scenes and I'm doing all the stuff. And even during the event, I was still busy and doing things. But after the event happened, when I saw reviews, when I talked to people, when I watched the videos that people were taking, everybody got out of it exactly what I wanted them to, which was just like, I know, I loved it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And people, like, everybody kind of took it a little, like, everybody, it was personalized. Some people stayed up late. They were by the campfire. They were talking. Some people were out playing music and singing songs. Some people were just kind of like hanging out and just relaxing and feeling peaceful. Everybody was talking. It was a good crowd of people. It was about 60 people. So it's a good crowd, but it's small enough. And there's lots of little places. So it's 6 different lodges. And there's fire circles and porches and hammocks and rocking chairs. And there's just places everywhere. So if you want to have like a big thing with a bunch of people, if you like just find like a couple people that you really connect with and you just want to stay up late talking, there's places for people to do all of that connecting. We provide like all the food and everything. So it's very homey. You know, there's always a coffee maker. There's always a fridge that has stuff. There's always snacks. There's always drinks. It's just about being comfortable and having a very fulfilling experience.
I love it. I can't wait. I mean, I'm thinking, you know, I'm a country kid. Like, I grew up in a log cabin that my parents built out in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And you know, there was like the woods out behind our cabin that we could just, you know, there was an old rope swing back there that my dad hung, and like, just like being in nature is a thing that I connect with deeply on a personal level. But then also, like, when I was 7, we moved to town. And so I still kind of got that by, like, we'd go camping, like, all summer long we were at a campground. And then I moved to Florida, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the monstrous gators and stuff that we have down here, I have no interest in going camping. Are you kidding me? Screw nature. It's also 4,000 fucking degrees every day at any given time of the year. So, like, it's been over a decade since I've really gotten to, like, unplug and just be in nature. And yes, like, that is the thing that I'm looking forward to. Now, my wife is not an outdoorsy person, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, the lodges they're like houses. So they have all the modern conveniences. They're all very comfortable. So if somebody isn't super outdoorsy, and we did have people that were not like super outdoorsy, it's very comfortable for everyone. So you can get as much or as little of the outdoors as you like. And that's not even like all the talks that we had, like the speakers and everything. We're careful to balance time so that we don't have too much going on to where it feels compressed. But we have like meditation sessions, like mindfulness, secular meditation sections, so that people can kind of learn how to do that outside of a religious context. Daryl Ray leads a hike, so that's nice, and he talks during the hike. We had talks about healthy secular sexuality. That is a huge challenge for lots of people coming out of religion. Even people who are, you know, just like your normal cis het, like monogamous, like even people who, I guess for lack of a better term, have a very like vanilla, you know, sexuality, they still are afraid because of all the shame and everything. So we talked about that. We talked about fear of hell, which is another huge one, which even people who are kind of non-believers hold on to some of that. Like there's still some of that lingering. So we talk about all this stuff, which is really cool because then people get a chance to really digest it together. And we have like big meals together. I cook along with Daryl's partner, Barb. So we're like busy in the kitchen making stuff. We have some things brought in and then we cook there too. So it's not like, I guess it doesn't feel like conference food, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know, it has that home cooking feel a little bit. So it's like we're trying to kind of throw a big party, and we want everyone to just feel like comfy and at home and nice and good.
I love it. It's like camping with the RfR family. Like, it's so great. Let's talk about the venue. So this is in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
That's not too far of a haul for us. We're gonna make the drive up, and that'll be, you know, I'm one of those people that like the trip, the journey is part of the vacation. You know, like
I'm the same.
I'm gonna enjoy that. Now, when I lived in Illinois and came down here to Florida, like on vacation, there's nothing like flying when it's when it would otherwise be a 2 or 3 day drive. Like there's nothing like getting off the plane in Orlando, but I do like the drive too. So we're gonna drive up, and then as people are like looking at this, and we'll give you all the information. We'll put it in the show notes, send you the links and everything. So you said there are several cabins to choose from. I would note maybe just a word of education. If when you go to look for these things, when you're like picking out your spot, it's a book by the bed kind of place, right? So that was something that was new on me, and this is the only reason why I wanted to bring it up, because I was like, oh, well, my wife and I are going, and, we'll get a room, and then, oh, well, maybe we'll get a room with, 2 beds and our friend Jason, and we can just stay in a room together. And then when I got on the website, it was like, oh, wait, I can book, okay, this room has 3 beds. I can book those 3 beds, or you can like room share with a new friend, and I think that's cool too.
Yeah. So when we first did it in 2019, I actually did it by the room. And then kind of along the line, I had a lot of people kind of asking about room share stuff. And I was like, I just broke it all into room share. So it made it very clear that you were room sharing, but it made it so much more accessible to people because it brought the price down on the accommodations a lot. And if people wanted to do it, there was the option. If people didn't want to do it, then certainly they can either get a private room or they can just book all the beds in the room. Or there is a hotel that's about 15 minutes away in Mars Hill, like in town. Right. So, there are options, and we help people come in. So like if people want to hitch a ride into the venue from the hotel, we will help them with that. And we do the same thing for people flying in. We shuttled everyone out. We just kind of all took turns, and we got all the flight information from people if they needed us to come and get them, and we just made it happen.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
I love it. Yeah, I can't wait. So,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at like some of the itinerary things that you can do. You mentioned the hike with Dr. Ray. That's going to be a hoot. I should.
He's an avid hiker. Avid hiker. That man climbs mountains.
I always mention Dr. Del Rey, no relation, but I've adopted him, so I'll claim him. But he is a hoot to talk to. So getting to like hang out and go on a hike. Mandisa Thomas is going to host a karaoke party. That'll be a hoot.
That was a lot of fun. That was a ton of fun. We have a tasting reception. So we get booze. People can drink it for free, but not like a lot. We let people like taste things. They can have some. And then the next Saturday night is kind of BYOB. So we encourage people, if they want to drink alcohol. I mean, we'll have like your normal, like, you know, tea. We'll have different sodas, lemonade, things like that. But if people want to bring alcohol, then they can just bring it on up and do whatever, drink whatever they like.
Cool. Gail Jordan is hosting a workshop that I think this is something I'm starting to see a lot more of lately, and I'm glad to see it. So I serve on the board of the Humanist Society, and one of the things that we're really trying to sort of get out into the world is this idea of tradition and ritual, and taking the religion out of it. You know, what as humans, as this type of creature that we are, we need ritual is a good thing. Tradition is a good thing. It's something that we crave and that we need. And so the idea then is like, once you've left a religion, well, how do we keep having tradition and ritual that's not steeped in religion necessarily? And that's, you know, that can be creating all new things. Like, it is a blank page and you just get to do whatever you want with it. And so I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's a topic that she's going to be talking about.
Yes. And it's something, sometimes people don't think about it.
Yeah.
They don't think about like what, you know, like Christmas, like plenty of atheists like Christmas, like the secular parts of it. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
And it's like, well, just don't go to church and
make up your own. Make up your own traditions. It's
Yeah.
scary to have a blank slate because people.
yeah, we put Baby Yoda on top of the tree this past Christmas.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, Christmas is big shit around here because my wife is a former Jehovah's Witness. And so we like go overboard because she went so long without that like birthdays and Christmas are a big deal with her. And so obviously where there's no, you know, nativity, baby Jesus, whatever, like we do the secular Santa Christmas stuff with our kids. I think about things like, well, one of the things that I'm sort of focused on is milestones in transition. Like, as a trans person, right, you have like, when you get your name legally changed is a big $400. I had to go to the courthouse and pay $400 to get my name legally changed. That's a big deal. Let's build a ceremony around that. Let's celebrate that. That's huge. Like, and maybe it's, you know, maybe it's a surgery date, or like there's so many different things along that journey that we can celebrate. So that's one of the things I think of, like, let's create new traditions around this stuff because it's important and we should celebrate that stuff. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. What else? Did I miss anything, like any of the big major?
So
components?
we have some things in the works that are not yet official,
Okay.
that have not yet been announced. But We will have.
You can tell us. Nobody's watching. It's fine.
we will have a few therapists and some leadership from the Secular Therapy Project doing, at least one of them is going to be doing like a presentation, and they will be on hand to just kind of be supportive and help people. We had 2 therapists who were on hand last time, and especially in the beginning, more so in the beginning, when it was kind of people were just breaking the ice and loosening up. A lot of people had like anxiety, and so they were able to just kind of like sit down and be like, hey, like, do you want to tell me about yourself? Or it just kind of really helped, because that's their job. That's what they do. And there's going to be quite a few volunteers, and everyone's trained in how to talk to people.
Are you on YouTube, Mom?
Yes, I want to show you. But you need, yes, but you need to go.
Oh my gosh, adorable.
Close the door, please.
You should, Allie, you should see all of the pictures, the critters these kids play with, like with the cicada picture that I saw just the other day. You found one?
Yes. Oh, yes. He finds all kinds of critters. And I will be, so I'll be bringing my whole crew to the excursion.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about, so there's like kids registration, and we were sort of torn between like, oh, well, do we want to bring our kids? Okay, so let me lay it on the line for you. We have a 5-year-old who thinks she's 15, and she is just like, she's either the most polite, sweet princess you've ever met, or just the nastiest bitch you've ever met. There is no in between. It's one or the other. And so, like, I'm looking through the thing going, oh, well, you know, if your kid's a pain in the ass, we're going to, you know, we're going to call you to come get your kid, sort of thing. And so I was like, I don't know. Do we want to leave the kids at home? And, like, we haven't had time for ourselves in 15 years. Like, maybe let's just go have some time for ourselves. So talk about that a little bit. Like, what is, I don't know, sold you a bad view of that, I think, but what's the plan with like activities for the kids and stuff?
So I plan around who registers, which is why I ask. So there's like a small charge for little kids, a little bit more for the bigger kids. And it's mostly just like for like food and some, you know, activity costs, and like 0 to 3 is free. But I ask that people register so that we can plan. So I'll just keep an eye on the registration, and whatever kind of age groups we get in, I'll plan activities, I'll recruit some volunteers, and I'll be like, okay, so let's do this. So I don't have anything, I don't have any set in stone framework, because it's a lot of work to do. And then if we only get kids like that are a certain age, it's like, well, I just got to plan for these guys. Right. But I'll hold a baby. I'll hold a baby for hours. So, right. You know, that's fine. And then I bring my kids, and my husband will be there. Last time he just took them out. He took them on hikes. They went and they found salamanders and frogs, and then they brought them all back for everyone to see. They explored. There's lots to explore. So, I mean, my kids they love outside. They love looking at things. So to me, it seems, maybe because I take care of my kids all day long, I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like, and then when you get a bunch of kids together, they play together, and then it's even easier.
Right.
So yeah, so entertaining kids and stuff. I just will build activities based on the age groups that come in. And then like teenagers don't want to usually do anything.
True.
Except,
yeah. Is there Wi-Fi? Can I sit and play on my iPad or whatever?
Well, so I have a 17-year-old, and so like at the time he was 15, and so I was like thinking like if we had other teenagers register, I was like, going to be like, well, just bring the Xbox and we'll hook it up, you know, and the kids can play if they want to, the older ones.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's another thing that you can do. So I'm going to have you tell everybody how to go find all this information and register if they're interested. But if you are not interested necessarily in going, but you want to help make it affordable for someone else to go, there are people who would love to go that can't afford to. And we have a program that you can make a donation in a sponsorship sort of fashion to help pay for people to go, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I do not have our subsidies sign up online yet, but I will be putting our subsidy request out. And so we had, how many? I want to say we had 8 people attend on subsidy last time. And nobody knows, that you're on subsidy. Like, nobody knows it except for me. And it's just to help people attend who wouldn't normally be able to. And if people do want to donate, as you scroll down the website, you can see, help other people attend. And some people just chip in like $5 or $10. Some people chip in enough for like a person to go. And that just kind of helps us. It helps us defray the cost of the event and helps to pay for other people to come in and to stay and for us to keep building these programs.
Absolutely. I love that. So where can people go to learn more about the Fall Excursion?
So you can go to recoveringfromreligion.org, and it's right on the main menu. It's like the first option, I believe, Fall Excursion 2021. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at RfRORG. You can follow us on Instagram at RfRORG. And you can follow us on TikTok. We are on TikTok.
What?
Yes, I had to.
Gotta reach the kids.
Somebody,
Gotta reach the young people.
Teach me.
We don't have a lot of videos on TikTok yet, but we are there. And so absolutely come follow us on TikTok. And that is, I believe, at RfRORG as well. So yes, come and follow us. And you can sign up for our newsletter as well. If you scroll down, it's on the footer of our website. You can subscribe to the newsletter. And I send out updates usually every week about programs we're offering, the RFRX talks. I even gave our newsletter subscribers first dibs at registration for the event. So they had the link and were able to register before I release it to the public. So absolutely do that if you want to keep updated on everything. Yeah,
come. It'll be fun.
Yes, do. Yeah. It's going to be great. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. It was so good last time that this time I'm just like, it's going to be even better, because you know how you have like the little kinks, the little things.
Yeah.
We'll be able to iron everything out. It's going to be so smooth. Everybody's going to have a great time. I'm really excited.
And what's the date?
It is, thank you for asking. It is Friday, September 17th through Sunday, September 19th.
Okay.
And it's in Mars Hill, North Carolina, up in the mountains. Mars Hill is it's an adorable little college town. We kind of were able to drive around it a little bit. It was great. It's got a cute little coffee shop on Main Street. It is surprisingly progressive for North Carolina.
North Carolina, I was going to say, yeah.
Mountain, North Carolina.
It's right. So the airport that a lot of people will fly into will be Asheville. Mm-hmm. And so Asheville is like a progressive little center in North Carolina, in the mountains, if you can believe it. And then Mars Hill is associated with a college, and it's very close outside of Asheville. So it's actually a very welcoming environment. It's all very cool and hip, which I was like, oh, this is great. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't expecting that, and even the man who owns the venue that we work with, he's super laid back. He's very flexible. He's great. He's awesome. And he knows what we do, and he's all about it.
It's awesome. And the cabins are really cute. They're like, like legit, like
Yes.
cabins in the woods.
Yes,
Like,
well, they
like where I grew
so
up, a cabin. Yeah.
the owner and his sons build them themselves.
That's amazing.
So like,
Wow.
yeah, so like some of them, they're all different. They're all different because they're all built individually, and in a lot of them, you can see like sections where they are logs that they
Yep.
pulled out of the woods, you know, and like they put them all together. And some of them, they have like big logs like going up through the middle, like trees. There's one room that has, he calls it the Harry Potter room because it's like a little bed inside like a little, not a closet per se, but
Yeah.
like a little cubby, you know.
Yes. Yes.
There's that's what I mean by like nooks and crannies. Everything is, it's all built by hand. He has like books and games, and there's just to explore it all, just to look around is so much fun.
Cool.
Maybe my final thought that we didn't cover is some people might still be concerned about COVID. That's a realistic concern still. So I can tell you firsthand that you will need to take a photo of your COVID vaccine card and send it in to show that you have received your vaccine. And as someone who has taken this thing very seriously from jump, I very much appreciate that, because you just don't know. And when you talk about things like, particularly in like the room share experience, just not knowing. But for this, like, rest assured, you can know, like, we've all had to send in our vaccine records.
Yes, I look at every single one of them personally, and I'm like, this looks legit. Check. You know, so I'm checking them all. The volunteers have to do it. All the, like, every single human being, the people who are speaking, the special guests, like, everyone has to send me their vaccine card, no exceptions, unless you are, I put the cutoff at 18, if you're under 18, because at the time, like, the vaccine wasn't offered to all age groups. Right. So yeah, if you're 18 or older, I have to have a copy of your vaccination card or you cannot come.
Yep. Yeah, if you show up and try to check in, you will be told, thanks for coming all this way, but I'm sorry.
Yes. And of course, I will do my best to make sure everybody sends it. Like, I'll be bugging people, emailing people, following up, because I don't want anybody to be disappointed. You know, I don't want that to happen at all. But we, when we decided that we were going to have this event, we all were like, everybody has to be vaccinated, or else it just won't be safe.
Right.
Yeah, you have to take it seriously. You really do. Cool. Well, everybody go to recoveringfromreligion.org, click on the Fall Excursion 2021, and come hang out with us. It'll be a fun time. It'll be fun hangs. Do you want to stick around for a little bit, and we're going to talk about some news stuff, or you're welcome to go chase lizards or whatever it is that you do.
No, I'll stick around. My husband got home. I can hear him downstairs with the kids. I'm covered. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll have adult time.
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, that's largely what this is for me every week. And usually I lock the door to the studio. Tonight I didn't. And I've had a visitor a couple of times, but mine's been quiet. I don't know.
I saw it.
Yeah, I saw it too.
I saw them.
I did.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some stuff in the news. I'm going to bounce around here a little bit because I don't know what I printed out and what I didn't. But maybe the good news. We'll start with the good news. There was a meeting between secular atheist groups, humanist groups, and the White House, which is a big freaking deal. So this is Hemant's write-up in the Friendly Atheist. Melissa Rogers, Josh Dickinson, and Ben Odell from the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships had a conversation with members of the Secular Coalition for America, and that includes all of these other organizations that are mentioned a bit later. But I mean, I think we could probably all agree that, like, the idea of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships is an unfortunate name at least. But happy to be included for the first time in several years. I think the last time that happened was in 2013. So it's been a while since our voices have been included in that. The requests were straightforward. None of them involved special perks for atheists. It was all about maintaining church-state separation and equality under the law. Yeah, right. SCA said, we stress the importance of rescinding harmful and discriminatory Trump administration actions like the faith-based social services rules and Jeff Sessions' Department of Justice memo, and urged that actions going forward better reflect the more historical and pluralistic vision of religious freedom. The suggested action we proposed was the support of judicial nominees with strong stances on religious equality, as well as those who are non-religious. American Atheists got even more specific. American Atheists will continue to advocate for more robust protections for Americans seeking services from religious providers to ensure that no one is turned away from shelter, an adoption or foster agency, or denied access to any basic service due to religiously motivated discrimination. And if this administration fails to live up to its obligations under the Constitution or its commitments to religious equality and representation for non-religious Americans, we will hold them accountable. And I think that's an important point.
That's amazing.
Good distinction to draw too, where we think about like, oh, well, we're all 501c3 nonprofit organizations, and we don't endorse candidates or oppose candidates. And, you know, so like, yes, one team tends to be more fair and equitable. But if either of those teams does some shit that's not in line, that isn't living up to the separation of church and state, or religion and government, or protecting people from harms imposed by religion and religion getting exemptions to cause harm, we're going to hold all y'all accountable. It doesn't matter which team you play for. So I think that's an important, like, it's important to be in the room when those conversations are happening, right? So that we can say, like, listen, you need to stop allowing the Catholic adoption agency to say, no, you can't adopt this child because you're gay or whatever.
Yeah,
that stuff's got to stop.
Yes, I agree. Well, at least they can't benefit from federal money,
right? Well,
and do that.
Yes.
Yeah, and groups like that and people like that, even so much as just teachers in schools, will get away with as much as they think they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't think anybody's watching, then they're going to try to push their own agenda. Whereas if they know that they're going to get in trouble, even begrudgingly so,
right,
they're not going to do that.
Yeah. And I think it just signals a lot that our community was included in the conversation at all, as saying, like, no, we really do want to hear what you all think and what you have to say, and you know, where you stand on this stuff, where for the almost decade prior, no, we really don't care what you have to say. We're going to do this Christian nationalist stuff, and we're fine with that. So I'm hoping that that's a thing that we'll continue to enjoy being in the room for.
I was going to say, it's a nice start. We'll see,
yeah,
what happens, but yeah.
I feel like with this administration, there's a whole lot of it being about the writing on the wall. So they know that the millennial generation is up and coming, that they're voting, that they are running for office. And they also know that generations on down, it's just going to keep on happening like this. It's just going to become more progressive and more accepting and more pluralistic. So they either have to appeal to us or not be in office anymore.
Right.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. Millennials are becoming less and less religious, or there's like a large percentage of millennials that don't care. They don't believe in any. No, I won't say they don't believe in anything, but they don't believe in a religion. They don't know, and I love the fact that that number is growing.
Hmm. Yeah. And when you look at like Pew Research data, even the older generations are slowly becoming less and less religious. Not quite at the rate as younger folks, but like it's a trend overall.
It's a
Uh,
nice trend.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they're seeing their children.
Hmm.
They're seeing their children letting go of religion, changing beliefs. This happened with my dad. My dad voted Democrat for the first time.
Wow.
And he's not your typical conservative kind of guy. And so I think that's kind of the other thing that's happening. Like when you see Republicans changing their stance on LGBTQ issues,
Mhm.
a lot of the time it's because it's personal for them.
Yeah.
They have a kid or a grandkid. And so I think that's happening too with older generations. They have kids or grandkids. They don't want to lose those relationships. And so they're starting to learn and they're starting to change their perspectives.
Yeah. I think that you just described like the overarching slow slog towards progressivism that humanity has been on all along, right? Like
Yeah.
just this idea that like the arc of the universe or whatnot. But like uh if you look back through time, I talk about this a lot in context of like the queer community and being a trans person, and how like when you look at the road ahead and you're like, oh my God, we have so much farther to go. But if you turn around and look back for just like a hot second, like, holy shit, how far we've come. And we have to stop and like take note of that. Like, yes, we still have lots of work to do, but my God, we've come a long way. Um, and yes, there will be North Carolina House Bill 2 in 2016 or whatever that was, and the Texas bill right after that, and now all of these anti-trans sports bills. Like those things are going to happen, but if you zoom out just a little bit and look at sort of that bigger picture, we are moving in a progressive direction overall in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like, you're hiking and you're looking up and you're like, oh, I have such a long way to go. But you got to take your breaks,
Yep.
turn the chair around, have a beer and look down and be like, look how far we've come, just to kind of keep your strength up.
Yeah. Let's see. Where do I want to go next? Speaking on progressive, yeah. Let's talk about abortion. So there's that was the good news. Here's the bad news. The Supreme Court.
The rest is all bad.
Yeah, the rest is all bad. The Supreme Court has decided to take up a case that could and likely will flip the what little was left of Roe v. Wade on abortion rights. So they're going to take up a case which is about what's the word? It's whether the fetus can survive outside the womb.
Viability.
What's the word? Viability. That's the word. Yeah. So there's a lot of back and forth about like when we can detect a heartbeat, even though it's not really a heartbeat and it's just like electrical activity, and okay, I get it. And fetal viability is another one of those. Like, so the idea is like, where do you draw the line? Should abortions be available in all cases for any reasons, or should there be some sort of restrictions, or abortions not available at all, period, for any reason ever? And people come down in a lot of different spots along that line. I tend to be more of the like, in any case for any reason is none of my damn business.
Same.
I'm not the one carrying a fetus, so what's it to me? But
Yeah.
here we're gonna have the now even more conservative Supreme Court take a look at this again, and scratch away at it some more.
Yeah, I've been trying to I feel terrible about it. I've been trying to not think about this because it's so upsetting for me. I've had all kinds of gestational stuff going on. So I kind of know about different things. So like I've had my kids, and I've gone through pregnancies. I've had miscarriages of wanted pregnancies, and they were heartbreaking and terrible. I did a surrogacy, and we had to go through it twice because the first time I miscarried. And then the second time, everything was fine. But I was also kind of in a support group with lots of other surrogate people. And there's just so much that can happen as far as gestation goes. It's really scary and unpredictable and dangerous for the body that is carrying the fetus or fetuses. It's life-threatening. And things can turn on a dime very quickly. One of the mothers, she was retaining so much water that she developed pneumonia and she couldn't breathe. It's stuff like that. People don't even think about it. And they were able to get it under control, and she was fine. Baby was fine. I've had friends who have been pregnant and they find out. So like when you really find out what viability looks like is that 20-week scan. And so 20 weeks is not viability. But that's when you kind of really get a look at what's going on in there, and you're able to really tell what the condition of the fetus is, whether or not it's probably going to be healthy or it might not be. And I had a very dear friend, and she found out at that 20-week scan that her baby was not going to survive birth. And so, and it was terrible. She wanted that baby. She decided to carry him and to give birth to a stillborn child and to mourn that child. And that was her process, and that's what she wanted to do. But she was healthy and fine. She was able to do that. But there's lots of situations where, you don't have that choice. Or it just might be too painful. It just might be too emotionally painful for you to have this pregnancy, to feel that baby moving inside of you, and to know that it's all going to end at the end. And you're never going to get to meet your baby because they're going to not live.
Right.
And that's a really personal decision. It's a medical decision. The couple that I did surrogacy for, the woman, she had a heart condition. She found out that she wasn't able to support the pregnancy because she had like a heart prosthesis. And when you're pregnant, you have 50% more blood in your body. Your heart has to work a lot harder. And so they found out when she was 5 months pregnant. It was either she was going to die or they had to do an abortion. It was terrible. It was a terrible decision. And these late-term abortions, I feel like it's like the horrible boogeyman. It's the straw man. People don't get to 5 months of pregnancy and just be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. It's not something that people do lightly. I mean, yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's wanted pregnancies. They wanted that baby.
Yep.
And it's horrible. And it's like, that's something that people need to make those decisions for themselves. They need to make them with their doctors. There's no room for politics in any of it because that just makes things unsafe.
But there's politics in it and there's religion in it.
Yes.
And they're always, what about the baby, or my Bible says this, and it's not even the women that get to make these decisions or make these policy or participate in making these policies. It's the men. And that's what pisses me off. I've never had an actual child, I've never given birth to a child, but yeah, it pisses me off because I would want to have a choice. And I know Florida, we talked about this several weeks ago or months ago about the abortion bill, I think in Florida, where they did not want to allow, even in cases of
incest,
disability or, they did not want to allow.
Yeah, that's right. Disability,
Yeah. You to have an abortion.
Well, yeah. So I think I mean, I'll hit this point again. And I remember that we talked about put my religious hat back on for a minute, because I was religious when I was, 17 and got my 18-year-old girlfriend pregnant, and her parents took her to have an abortion, and I wasn't involved and didn't get so I know what it feels like to be on that other side of no, this was a part of, I had something to do with that. And I was a good Christian boy at the time, and we were going to get married and raise that baby, that's what the religion had pumped into my brain of this is what you do. But it also it sets that whole thing up of life at conception sort of thing, where if you put your Christian hat back on and you believe that life does begin at conception, then an abortion for any reason has to be viewed as murder, whether it was the result of rape or incest or has a fetal abnormality or whatever the reason is. And as much as I disagree with those people, I think at least they're the ones that are being the most true to their belief and doctrine when they have that position. The ones that carve out exceptions for rape and incest are at least sort of coming to the middle to try to do something right, at the expense of what their religion is actually has taught them. But yeah, I just, it's so damn maddening.
It is.
It is. And I feel again, it's I feel with people who are conservative, with Republicans, they don't get it until it happens to them. Yeah. It's
well, and how many times have we seen a news story about Congressman so-and-so, it came out that, he had a woman on the side and she had an abortion, right? We hear those stories all the time too.
Yeah. And at this point, I think it's about just control.
Yeah.
Because there's other aspects that aren't addressed. One is, what do you call it? Birth control.
Yeah.
Make that accessible if you want to reduce abortion. And then two, what about the kids that are born and are not wanted for whatever reason, or make adoption easier for something. So fine, you want to force a woman to have a baby, then help her, whether it's financially or whatever. Or if you want people to abstain from sex, which they're not, make birth control or whatever available.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
But at that point, it's about control of the woman's body.
Yep. I can't tell you how many times I've preached this just in the past year. The idea that if you want to reduce the incidence of abortion, and add into that, if you want to decrease STI, STD transmission rates and unwanted pregnancies and all the things, can be reduced by actually teaching kids comprehensive sex ed. And making safe sex normalized and the contraceptives available, just that will go an extremely long way towards reducing all of those things that we claim to want outcomes for, but refuse to do the things necessary to get those outcomes.
I can't tell you how many parents freak out though at the thought of their teens having sex. Right. They freak out. And so I've seen this firsthand several times with with friends of my child. And so I tell him all the time, I'm like, I've got condoms, I've got pregnancy tests, I will drive people to a clinic, I'll take them to get Plan B, whatever, I don't care. They don't have to tell me anything or explain anything, I don't care. And I will never tell anyone.
Yep.
And so I tell him that. His friends know that. But and I see this so much more, it seems, in girls, when parents find out that their girls are sexually active. I have heard such terrible things. I've heard situations where they say they're going to take their daughter to the emergency room for a virginity test. Like they tell them that. They slut shame them.
Yeah.
I've seen in situations, they forced a daughter to get birth control she didn't want. It wasn't a consultation. It wasn't like, let's work through this. Let's figure out what's going to work best for you.
We're going to get you birth control today.
We're going to get this particular terrible kind of birth control. In my opinion, it's the worst kind. We're going to get this for you, and you don't have any choice in the matter. I've seen you're not allowed to see, boyfriend, girlfriend anymore. It's like, and there are people that I've known. I have known these people and met these people, and they seem reasonable and fine. And then as soon as sex comes into it, they lose their minds.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much of that is like just this self-perpetuative, like, well, you know how I was taught sex? You guys are going to get so tired of hearing me tell these stories. My uncle was my health teacher, PE and health teacher. And so we got the whole like, all right, kids, now we're going to show you the slides of the clap and the drip. And if that doesn't scare you into not having sex, I don't know what will. Like, that's the kind of sex ed we had. And short of that, it's like that awkward conversation with your dad sitting on the other side of your bed going, how much do you know about the birds and the bees? And it's just awkward. Like, we've got to break that cycle and start like learning how to talk to our kids about their bodies and sex and relationships and just all of this stuff. Or we are just doomed to continue having these same problems. I did want to mention just back to sort of the case that the Supreme Court is looking at. This is a Mississippi law that would enforce abortion bans after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Even if the court, this is out of the Miami Herald, even if the court does not explicitly overrule earlier cases, a decision favorable to the state could lay the groundwork for allowing even more restrictions on abortion, including state bans on abortion once a fetal heartbeat is detected as early as 6 weeks. The case will probably be argued in the fall, with the decision likely in spring 2022, right during the middle of midterm election season.
Not sure if you're aware, but Texas literally just did that earlier this week. 6 weeks, pregnancy at 6 weeks, or I think as the governor said, whenever the heartbeat is detected.
Right.
And then you can, a private citizen can sue anyone who is involved in assisting in that termination of pregnancy. It's nuts. This was, a couple of days ago in Texas.
I think people don't understand how pregnancy and pregnancy dating works when they do this kind of thing.
Definitely.
So the first 4 weeks, the first 3 weeks of a pregnancy, you're not pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
You're nothing. Mm-hmm. They count it as like, basically once your period ends, week 1 starts. And then around week 2, we've got like egg time. And around week 3, there may be fertilization,
That's
and then you
6 weeks.
So it is, so at 4 weeks would be typically when you might miss a period if your periods are always regular and are always 28 days. That's when you would miss a period, is around 4 weeks. So you could conceivably know as early as 4 weeks and no earlier that you're pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So then 2 weeks after that, so that gives you, if the soonest you can know really is at 4 weeks. And so that gives you 2 weeks to get an abortion. and they cannot effectively do a D&C type abortion earlier than 6 weeks because they can't find the tissue, the material. They can very easily miss it because basically it just looks like all the rest of your uterine lining because it's very tiny. There's hardly anything there. And so, that kind of limits it to like a medical abortion, which again can not work or can work incompletely. And then you have a whole other new nightmare of infection. It's like people don't get it. Like I didn't know I was pregnant with my last one until I was about 8 weeks along.
Right.
I didn't know. And so people think 6 weeks pregnant, they think it's 6 weeks since the woman has found out she's pregnant, but that's not what 6 weeks is.
Right.
Devin in the chat says, for what it's worth, Florida clinics are already seeing an increase in out-of-state clients and are preparing for many more given the Mississippi and Texas issues. Reach out to abortion funds and clinics to see what they need to help out-of-towners. And Floridians, for that matter. Like, we live in one of those wonderful southern states that's fast-tracking all of this kind of stuff. Anyway, elections have consequences, friends. I guess is the bottom line to that. And we'll be watching that.
They do. And they have consequences for people that, like, your kids, for generations down.
Yep.
Boomers don't care about this stuff. It's like, our kids, and they're not going to be able to get health care.
Right. Yeah. I worry so much for my kids. I really do. Like, what kind of society are we leaving for them? Anyway, how about let's see, what else do we want to talk about? I have a whole pile of stuff here. Let's talk about the death penalty a little bit. While we're all on the hot humanist topics tonight, let's just do all of them. I will go on the record before even looking at this article saying that I am against the death penalty in all cases. This is from Religion News Service. On Wednesday, May 19th, Quentin Jones was scheduled to be executed in Texas. That did happen. It is the first state execution of 2021 and the first time a state has executed anyone in 9 months. It has been 40 years since we've gone this long without a state execution. Quentin is not the only person currently was scheduled to be executed in Texas this year. So were 4 other people. Typically, Texas accounts for about half of the executions in the U.S., but this year it could account for all or almost all of them. Who was the comedian? Was it Foxworthy that used to make that stupid joke about Texas? So like, everybody else is trying to get rid of the death penalty. My state's putting in an express lane. Yeah, five of the 6 executions planned for 2021 are in this one state. Until just this year, Texas had a law called the Law of Parties that allowed people not directly responsible for a murder to be executed for the crime, sort of guilt by association. And even now, Texas considers future dangerousness during sentencing, an idea that's been debunked by most criminologists and experts because it is impossible to predict who someone will become. In some cases, like Dwayne Buck, court experts have even suggested race can be a determinant of future dangerousness. Not even subtly suggesting black people are more likely to be violent than white people. Perhaps one of the many reasons African Americans account for a disproportionate number of our executions and the death row population. This is nuts.
I can't. Oh my God.
This is nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's do away with the death penalty. Let's do away with the death penalty.
Yeah, you can't reverse it. You can't fix it.
No.
Yeah.
If you convict somebody wrongly and then you execute them.
Yeah, there's no like, oopsie doodles, we'll take that back. No,
we'll pay your family millions of dollars. or whatever, or not. They wouldn't even
Or
pursue
none.
even finding the truth after they're dead.
Especially because science is getting so much better at, being able to figure out what has actually happened with crimes. And, with the Innocence Project and stuff, people are getting exonerated, and you have wrong people who are in jail while people who should be in jail are not. And it just, there's no reset button on the death penalty.
Yeah.
You can't take that back.
And what I don't understand is, how do they pick and choose who gets executed? Out of all of the people in prison, which, there's a lot of crimes, and there's a lot of people accused of a lot of crimes and convicted, but how do they pick and choose, like, who's next up?
It's not fair. It's not inherently fair. Because it's like, who has the better lawyer? Who has more resources to spend on a better lawyer?
Exactly.
Who has more pull in society, Who can we kill and people will be fine with it?
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it.
And I think, and again, this is the thing we talked about often, but I feel like we have to talk about it often because it's still a fucking problem. Just the idea of the way we handle these issues from jump, right? We are a punitive system. We are not a rehabilitative system. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking that there's anybody wants to make you better and get you back into society. That is not the goal at all. If it were, we wouldn't have for-profit prison systems that make money off the head count, for starters, right? But the idea of hey, whatever it was that caused you to do this crazy, terrible thing that you did, there's an emotional, if somebody killed somebody I love, I would have an emotional, I want to kill you back sort of reaction. And I think in the psychology of it all, that is a natural normal reaction feeling to have. And then there is a sort of pull yourself out of that, the heat and emotion, and think people do this stuff for reasons. And a lot of those reasons can be mitigated. A lot of those things are whether it's a treatable mental illness, if you want to choose that straw out of the bucket, or maybe you robbed the thing because of poverty. We can solve that poverty. All of these contributing factors that cause people to break laws and cause harm and do damage, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them, a great many of them, are things that we could do something about and refuse to at every step of the way, because it's easier to lock you up and throw you away and get you out, throw you out of the village.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And
but
then if we can kill you,
it doesn't throw them out of the village.
No, of course not.
It pulls their village into the system even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the for-profit part of it. We look down on other countries who have child labor and all this really low wages. But guess what? There's a lot of products being made that come out of prisons.
Right.
That we use every day.
Yes.
I can't remember. I read an article not too long ago, and it was a list of things that we use every day, being made by prisoners, and they are paid next to nothing.
Yep.
So it's also a business.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing about this story, I want to read a little bit more from the RNS article. In contrast to other Texas cases like Rodney Reed, where it is quite clear there was a wrongful conviction, Quentin does not claim to be innocent of the crime for which he faces execution. And this is, sorry for the present tense, past tense in the reading here. The article came out the day before his execution. So it's written in the past. He was 20 years old and addicted to drugs when he killed his great aunt, Berthena Bryant, with a baseball bat. It is terrible, and he knows it. Early on, he too was convinced he deserved to die, and even attempted to take his own life. But over the past 22 years, Quentin's story has taken an incredible grace-filled turn. So I want to start, like, let's put a pin in that for a moment, because 20 years old and addicted to drugs, there's a thing that we can address if we cared about each other and actually, like, invested the resources in our fellow humans and cared about them. His family and the victim's sister in particular have seen the power of forgiveness, redemption, and mercy. They are among the most vocal opponents to his execution. Every time they speak, you can feel their authentic faith shine through the cracks of their pain. They have seen the changes in Quinn's life, the way he has embraced his faith, tried to heal the wounds he inflicted, and the steps he's taken to change his life. Speaking of faith, in a viral video produced by the New York Times, Quinn quoted a passage from the Bible that says, "When I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." We all know that one, 1 Corinthians 13:11. Quinn went on to say, if he is executed, Texas will be executing the child he was, not the man he is now. He and tens of thousands of others are asking for Texas Governor Greg Abbott to stop his execution. It did not stop his execution. But there's a lot of threads to pull on just in that couple of paragraphs. Take the faith component out of it. Like, the idea that you can change and grow and you're not the person you were 20 years ago is a very valid thing to think about. God, if you judged me on who I was 20 years ago, holy crap. Like,
For yesterday, I'm not even the same person I was yesterday. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like people say that 18-year-olds are adults.
Yeah.
Our brains are not finished until we're in our mid-20s. They're not finished. You know, that's a fact. And so, a 20-year-old, like he was not his best self. That's for sure.
Yep.
And of course he could change and become a different kind of person.
Yep.
And obviously he did. So it seems you're doing humanity itself a disservice by killing him.
And what were the systemic realities that led him to get into the life of drugs that he was in at 20 years old? Like, there are just so many things that are wrapped up in this that, again, like, we could do a lot to address if we just did it.
If we just cared.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to, they want to have someone to look down on so that they can feel better about themselves. And that's what happens a lot of the time with people who are in poverty and with people who are drug addicts and with people who commit crimes. And people can look down on them and feel better about themselves. And again, it's just like there's so much mental health mixed up in this. If people were more comfortable with who they were, more comfortable with themselves, they wouldn't need to compare themselves to people and try and think they're better than other people to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah. The last couple of paragraphs here are really sort of drilled down into what the main thrust of the article is, which is when you think about the people who are take this article and the last one and like throw them up on a board together and juxtapose that. Like, who are the people who are generally like gung-ho for the death penalty? It's Christians in a lot of cases, right? The eye for an eye sort of mentality of justice. Justice isn't the right word to use there. It's not. The penalty of an eye for an eye. But the incongruousness of being pro-life in the case of a fetus and happily ready to throw someone to the electric chair on the other end just blows my mind. But in this case, the article goes on to say many of us who are asking for Quinn's life to be spared are Christians. And at the heart of our faith is the belief no one is beyond redemption. We are praying. We are calling the governor. We are hoping this is a moment Abbott can show the best of his faith tradition as a Catholic. Pope Francis has called for worldwide abolition to the death penalty, And the Catholic Catechism teaches that the death penalty has no place in modern society. And yet one of the tragic realities in America is, up until now, the Bible Belt has been the death belt. I'll say that again. The Bible Belt has been the death belt. In the very part of the country where Christians are most concentrated and under the leadership of Christian governors like Abbott, the executions continue. Despite our claims to be pro-life, Christians have been the firm base of support for the death penalty. But this too is changing. Recent polls of millennial Christians show overwhelming support for the abolition of the death penalty.
Yay, millennials.
So there you go. We're bringing it full circle.
Even the
young,
millennial Christians, yeah.
The young kids are, yeah, the kids. I get to call you that because I'm Gen X. No, I'm not Gen X. I'm a Zennial or a geriatric millennial, whatever the hell they're calling us now.
I think
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that? The geriatric millennial?
Yes, I think I'm like right on the cusp. I'm 83, so
Yeah.
I'm like right there. Yeah, but I mean, there's so many reasons to not do the death penalty.
Yeah.
Like, and even if you just like even if you take empathy and humanity out of it, it's like a lot of times people, you might still be able to get something useful out of people.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, people who are criminals. And I feel like that's not so much the case, like not useful as an information, but, criminals talk to each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes criminals don't want to be forthcoming about everything that they've done. And, maybe they might feel like talking and they might feel like, helping a little more if they didn't think that they were going to be executed.
Mm-hmm.
There was and I bring this up every time we talk about this topic too, because everybody needs to go watch this. I think this was part of the series called The Norden. And it was what's that guy's name? Michael, shit. I won't be able to think of the filmmaker. Anyway, I'll look it up in a little bit. But basically they went to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and I think it was Norway. And looked through this rehabilitation process that they have, the prison system that is in effect there. And it's another one of those things that's like, we stand over here and beat on our chests and oh, America, look at us, we're the number one, we're number one, America. And then you look anywhere else in the world and so many other places are rated higher for a number of things, starting with happiness and health. But anyway, in this case, it was this is a quote unquote prison facility that is meant to rehabilitate offenders and then and to put them back into society as productive, useful people who have grown beyond the thing that they did that got them in trouble. The quote unquote wardens live in this community with these people, so that they develop these relationships, almost like mentorships. They're taught skills. There's a lot of freedom. They cook their own food. It's just completely night and day to the way we do what a prison looks like in the U.S. And their recidivism rate is damn near zero because they're treating these people. Yes, they were criminals. Yes, they did a thing bad. But they're still human beings, and we should approach them as human beings when we look at what that care and treatment looks like.
Well, even from just a completely what am I trying to say? Logical view, people are easier to care for when you're meeting their needs.
Yeah.
They're not going to be jerks to you, and they're not going to make trouble. If their needs are being met and they're being treated like people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of treating people like people, we've talked about all of the transgender sports bullshit that's been going on in lots of states. And if we get to it here, all of this stuff is very coordinated, a national effort through the states. But there's an article here from Florida Politics that signals that the GOP intends to like get into these issues and carry this torch into 2022. So we're going to see more of this. Is basically the bottom line. So there was a Republican study committee budget proposal to Congress that included barring transgender athletes from girls' school sports. So we've seen this at the state level here in Florida and in plenty of other states. And now this is like, hey, let's just go ahead and take this national. This is red meat issue that it's a solution in search of a problem. We can talk ad nauseum about how useless this is and unnecessary. But essentially, it's a thing that we're going to see in the next few years. Representative Greg Steube joined in an announcement of the budget proposal. Sarasota Republican earlier this year filed the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, a federal restriction on transgender athletes, mirroring legislations passed by multiple state legislatures, including ours. And the budget, in addition to proposing $14.4 trillion in federal spending over the next decade, pushed a number of social conservative agenda items. Steube's proposal to bench trans girls or force them on boys' teams was one of those. Quote, this initiative protects women's sports by ensuring that biological female athletes are not forced to compete against biological male athletes, he said at a press conference unveiling the budget. Specifically, as the budget clarifies, this provision would protect women's sports by prohibiting federal funding of school athletic programs if they refuse to comply with the Title IX recognition of a person's reproductive biology, as indicated on their birth certificate. This frustrates me so much. And this is a wedgy issue. Like, so I include this story to tell you that we have an event here coming up locally. Here in Florida, our own Senator Kelly Stargell filed and carried the bill that passed both houses and is expected to be signed any day now, but probably after June 1st. We're thinking he's going to wait until Pride Month to sign that particular one into law. But so,
wow,
wouldn't that be a shock? Mm-hmm. So we have a press conference that a bunch of organizations, Equality Florida, Equality Polk, the Atheist community is going to be out there, several other organizations, Thursday at 6 p.m. outside Kelly's Lakeland office. But like when I sent out a notification to our email list, I got a response back about like, hey, this isn't an anti-trans bill. This is a pro-girls, pro-women bill. And it tells me like, even amongst the pick a label, agnostic, atheist, secular, humanist, whatever community, like we're not a united front on damn near anything, right? We say this all the time. We agree on one thing, probably not a god. Everything else up for grabs. Like literally everything else we all take, different positions and sides and issues on. And this is one of them. And there are better speakers than I who have gone through all of the various points on this about like, first of all, this bill in Florida like applies to even elementary school students. So if you're trying to argue to me that a trans girl who was identified male at birth by a doctor has an advantage over you before puberty even starts, shut the fuck up.
No.
Like that is straight up an attack on trans people, period.
It is. And suddenly they're saying pro-girl after dictating what happens with inside their womb. Come on.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. So anyway, just, know that there's going to be a lot more to that coming. There will be lawsuits, I'm sure, against all of these state leveled ones. the NCAA threatened to be like, hey, we're not going to host any tournaments in any of these states that are like living in the, 1800s. So sorry for you. And I hope they hold firm to that. But the thing, at the bottom line is, it's not an issue where trans students have participated in school sports up to this point. The NCAA, not the NCAA, the Florida High School Athletic Association, or whatever it's called, has policies in place. They've worked. There's not been any issues. Like, there's no, boys pretending to be girls to go dominate the girls' sports. Like, this is all just
a made-up problem.
Yeah. And what it does is it gets the frothing at the mouth, red meat opposition real wound up and ready to go vote again. So, just know what that's all about. But we're going to do a press conference, and we may do some sign waving afterwards outside Kelly's office, just to, raise awareness to, like, hey, there are trans people in your district, Kelly Stargell. There are trans people in all these districts, and we're hoping to get, like, we have some youth who are lined up to speak, because, like, this is your issue. This affects you. Like, we want to center this around trans youth and athletes. So I'll report back on that after, I might even go live on our channel while I'm out there. We'll see. But that's the thing coming up. Also, I want to mention, we did, David Williamson from the Central Florida Freethought community and I were on the Freedom from Religion Foundation's Ask an Atheist, talking about our recent invocation adventures in mine in Polk County and his in Oviedo. And so you can go find that on the FFRF YouTube and Facebook. But also, there's another news story that dropped recently about an invocation. This one from the Satanists. And like, everybody always gets all panties in a twist when the Satanists show up, right? Back in February, this is from Friendly Atheist. Back in February 2020, U.S. District Judge ruled against Satanists who wanted to deliver an invocation in front of the Scottsdale, Arizona City Council. Now, an appellate court, sadly, has upheld that decision. The initial ruling came after council members spent more than $176,000 to block Satanists from doing what Christians are allowed to do on a regular basis. It's a battle that's been going on for several years. All of this dates back to 2016, when the city council prevented the Satanic Temple from delivering an invocation at one of their meetings. The reason they gave at the time was that the temple had no presence in the city. The chapter was based in Tucson, not Scottsdale, even though they never asked about that during the application process. So why did that issue come up only after the Satanists had been given the green light to speak? Funny story, I gave an invocation in Lake Wales, which was not restricted to geography at all. Boy, they quickly crafted a policy that made it so that you had to be a resident of Lake Wales before you could come and speak at the thing, to make sure that I never came back. The Satanic Temple months later sent a letter to the council warning them against further discrimination. This time they had some proof that the council members were actively trying to silence them, and that whole "where are you based" question was nothing more than a distraction. Mayor Jim Lane and Councilwoman Suzanne Clapp made various anti-satanic comments to the media that indicate that they wish to use the county's invocation practice exactly for such, quote, impermissible government purposes. For example, Mayor Lane stated, "In Scottsdale, we've decided to keep our traditional invocations, and we've decided to send this Satanist sideshow elsewhere." He went on to say, "Not on my watch, not in the best city in America. We're telling the Satanists, hell no." Didn't stop there. Mayor Jim Lane was up for re-election, and one of his campaign flyers included a line about how he was proudly discriminating against the Satanists. Quote, "stopped so-called Satanists from mocking City Hall traditions with a prayer," was on this dude's re-election campaign materials. At that point, the council had two choices: take back their words and allow Satanists to speak, or get hit with a discrimination lawsuit. So the lawsuit was filed and then again, sadly, upheld. And this stuff is it's real super frustrating because this is, I don't know that this is ripe for Supreme Court, other than the fact that like the circuits are not always in real good agreement on this particular issue and how exactly the invocation policy and processes have to look. So I don't want it to go to the Supreme Court because I think we all know how it would go right now. But this is another one of those things that like a lot of times atheists will go, well, why do you guys want to give invocations anyway? Like, don't we want to stop them from doing that? Yes. Yeah, we don't want to do invocations. Invocations are dumb. Like it's that we should, none of us should be doing it. And
but if they're doing it, let us do it too.
Yeah. In the meantime, it's how did David say it? If you can't beat him, join him. And the courts have ruled. The courts have ruled that it is permissible for a county or a city, not a school board, but a county or a city government to have an opening invocation that includes prayer, as long as it's not discriminatory in who it selects to be those speakers. And so, they've said it's okay. So if you can't beat them, join them. That's where we're at.
I just love that it just brings out their. I mean, we already know that they kind of are bigoted a little bit, but I think that just by a satanic temple, someone showing up and giving an invocation, it just really makes their bigotry and discriminatory practices so public. I like it. I mean, let's keep making.
Bring it in the light of day.
Yeah, pull back the curtain and show who they really are, who we know they really are. But
yeah,
it's
my incident in at the Polk County Board, the chair Rick Wilson gave a quote to the paper, after all of the hubbub, gave a quote to the paper that said, I'm going to have a prayer before every meeting, and if that ruffles some feathers, then I'm sorry. So that tells you exactly what it's about. For him, it is about Christian privilege. It is about privileging his religious viewpoint in the public forum at a governmental meeting. You can't get any clearer than that. Like, anyway, let's do one final thing, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. I want to talk a little bit about this leaked video that I have not watched. This will be a surprise to all of us. Allie, what do you know about this? Can you set it up?
So this was a leaked video. There's an organization called, I think it's Heritage Action of America or Heritage Foundation. There are two organizations. They're sister organizations run by conservatives, and I think there's about 500K conservatives that donate money to this to these organizations because, let's see, I wrote some notes. Their whole mission is to build and promote conservative public policy. So they kind of write the playbook for, let's say, Georgia on the voting restrictions, and then Florida followed suit, and some other state, Arkansas, I think, followed suit, and some other states. So I feel like, they are pushing the conservative public policy making.
Yeah.
So
Who? See, now I got to look it up. Who's in charge of this? The Heritage Foundation.
I don't know exactly. I don't know why it's being considered dark money, but it's been around for since almost 50 years.
Okay.
It's actually they call it a think tank, and it's based in DC.
A think tank.
Yeah, a quote unquote think tank.
Right.
But yeah, the video is of leaked video of I think one of the an executive director giving a speech talking about how to push those bills through, specifically the voting restriction bills.
Okay, let me see if I can play that.
I'm Ari Berman, voting rights reporter for Mother Jones, with an exclusive new video from Documented about a right-wing group leading the GOP's war on voting.
I had one message for him. Do not wait to sign that bill. If you wait even an hour, you will look weak. This bill needs to be signed immediately.
You're watching Jessica Anderson.
We know that the fraud is real. We know that it can be proven.
These choices really show that the swamp is alive and well.
The left is using this basically as psychological warfare.
A former Trump administration official and now the executive director of Heritage Action for America, talking to top donors in Tucson, Arizona in late April. She's telling them about a meeting she had with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp just 3 days before the Georgia legislature passed a sweeping bill rolling back voting access in that state.
The state legislature in Georgia got it done, and you can help own this and cheerlead this if you sign it quickly. Do not delay.
But according to the video, Heritage Action did much more than just advocate for the bill.
Iowa was the first state that we got to work in, and we did it quickly and we did it quietly. Honestly, nobody noticed. At the end of the day, the bill that Governor Kemp signed and the Georgia legislature marshaled through had 8 key provisions that Heritage recommended.
This leaked video reveals how Heritage is leading a massive right-wing campaign to suppress voting rights in key battleground states like Georgia, Arizona, Florida, and Iowa just this year.
We're working with these state legislators to make sure they have all of the information they need to draft the bills. In some cases, we actually draft them for them, or we have a sentinel on our behalf give them the model legislation. So it has that grassroots, from the bottom up type of vibe.
While these bills are being sold as protecting quote-unquote election integrity, the real purpose seems to be to help Republicans win elections. They plan to spend $24 million over the next 2 years in Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin, Texas,
Pennsylvania,
and beyond to quote-unquote right the wrongs of November.
And we are going to take the fierce fire that is in every single one of our bellies to right the wrongs of November, to right the wrongs of the mistreatment against these men, and move it into other states.
The Heritage Foundation is one of the best funded think tanks in Republican circles. They write the policy, and their sister organization, the dark money group Heritage Action, makes it happen. From writing and advocating these anti-democratic bills to leading the effort to block the For the People Act in Congress, Heritage is weaponizing Trump's big lie to motivate their donors and their base to strip Americans of their fundamental right to vote. To read my story with investigative reporter Nick Sergey of the watchdog group Documented, go to motherjones.com.
Okay, that was interesting.
I'm sorry, Arkansas. I didn't mean. Apparently, it's not Arkansas, so I know I mentioned it. Sorry about that, Arkansas. But
Yeah. So there. I'm of so many different minds of this now. I tend to not be affected, swayed, motivated, whatever the word is, by that sort of like. It's a style, and I can't think of like the internet media company that really like made it a thing, but like that like
shock.
like that
I know
music.
what you mean.
That's
I
like
don't know the word for it. Shock.
Yeah,
kind of shock reporting or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it's really trying to play on an emotion. And to me, that's just like, bing, there's a red flag. Like, I see what you're trying to do here. So like, I feel like you have to take those with a bit of a grain of salt,
Right.
Because it's all, I mean, it's very propaganda like in its production element, I guess. But also, like, I would say, like, I'm trying to give the best possible light that I can before I knock it down. The idea of like, look, this is how the sausage is made. Every organization, national organization that I work with, that are in like advocacy, legislative work, they all have model legislation. We all hand model legislation to our lawmakers to hope to get them filed. The nefarity of this one is like that whole like, well, we have people that we can give it to that then they give it to their lawmakers. So it seems like it's coming from like the people first and not from our you know, our big national think tank organization that, you know, our team of lawyers put this together, and we made it look like this is coming from a, you know, a people's group. That kind of bothers me. Not a big fan of that. But yeah, like that, it really is like how the sausage gets made. There's a lot of that back channel stuff that goes on, model legislation and stuff like that.
It feels a little desperate to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels a little like we don't want to lose money. We don't want to lose our donors. We just lost this election.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say some punchy things so that we don't lose money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
Look at what we're getting done.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. But to that point, like, legitimately, this is the thing that happens. Like, all of this voter suppression stuff that's happening is well funded and nationally organized and has a powerhouse that's driving it. And it's hard for grassroots, actual, like, legitimate grassroots groups. It's hard to say when you've had 3 rum and cokes, to go against those big powerhouse organizations and, you know, take on that kind of stuff. Like, I get it, it's tough. Anyway,
I'm kind of, I guess, in a lot of ways, in a lot of things, I'm always kind of hoping, but I'm kind of hoping, again, like, as we move forward, like, I feel like if you look at the way commerce works, if you look at the way a lot of processes work, if you look at the way how we interact with the government now works, a lot of it is easy, accessible, and online. And I just feel like we're so close to getting over that hump when it comes to voting. We're so close to being like, let's just make this easy.
Yeah.
Let's just do it online. Like you said, let's get away from the paper. We're still using mail-in ballots and paper and all this stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
And we should be close enough, but then, like, systems are so easily compromised. Our technology security, like, but again, like, so much of this is just time. It sucks because the 3 of us can see it, and we can see what it should look like if we could just get us there. But there's so many people that, like, didn't have even dial-up that are when they were kids, that are, like, writing our laws, and so I can't expect them to have, like, technology security top of mind as a thing, because they didn't grow up in that world. And so, again, just like the way you're seeing, like, views on the death penalty and abortion and trans rights and all of these things are changing with the younger generations. That's my message of hope for y'all tonight. As we pass the plate around, we'll have Brother Keith play us a little music on the guitar, and we'll that's my message of hope, is that the kids are going to save us. If anyone can, it's these younger generations that just get it. Like, they just get it, and the sooner more of them are up in the ranks making decisions, I think the better off we'll be.
Well, I think we get it, you know,
yes,
like,
for sure.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it, is we get it. We're raising these kids. Yes. You know, we are fixing the generational trauma. So in a lot of ways, I see, you know, some of the Gen X, the millennials, it's like, we're the parents that are like, okay, we're messed up.
Yep.
We got to fix ourselves.
Yep.
You know, and then we're going to bring up a generation that's far less messed up, hopefully.
Or at the very least, like, okay to say, I'm messed up and I need to fix myself, right? You think about, like, my parents. Oh, no. We didn't go to therapy. Are you kidding me? Like, that generation, no, you're a man, you don't have feelings, and go to your room. Yeah, right.
Talk to your pastor.
Yeah, and talk to your pastor. Yep. All right. Hey, let's wrap up the show here. Shannon, thanks for coming on. This has been fun.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. This has been fun.
So we'll tell everybody one more time to go to recoveringfromreligion.org and click on the Fall Excursion link to come hang out with us in North Carolina. That's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Yes, and if you can't afford it, we will have subsidy applications out. We're trying to make this as accessible as possible to other people.
Yes, excellent. Anything else going on at Recovering from Religion you wanna talk about? Both of your organizations just birthdayed, right, or anniversaried recently?
Yes,
and it's the same age, I think, 12 years.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of marching together a little bit on the timeline. It's been an interesting year, but I will say this. I feel like COVID and everything happened, and we didn't stop. We did not stop. We did not slow down.
Mm-hmm.
We were concerned about like donor base and stuff like that, drying up. But we really figured out some solutions, and we kept getting volunteers in, and we just kept on moving. And it's like, I mean, of course, COVID had an impact on everyone. But we have really weathered the storm very well. And I'm really excited now that the administration has turned over. We're seeing vaccination rates come up. I'm just really excited about things that will continue to happen.
I don't want to speak for both of you, but Shanon, did you sort of see what it sounds to me like you're saying is that that the need for the services that RfR provides went up during COVID, but also the availability of people to volunteer and meet that need went up as well. And I think we see the same thing happening at Foundation Beyond Belief, and certainly in our organization. And the takeaway for me from that I wish we could just lock into stone and get people to understand is that when we're not just grinding the mill to make the bills, like when we have free time, we can get help for ourselves. We can help others. Like, it frees us up to do so much good in the world, and capitalism is killing us. And we've got to get over it. Allie, what's up with with you and Foundation Beyond Belief? I'm done preaching for tonight, I promise.
Like you said, we are celebrating 12 years and definitely pushing for donations for our new food security program that we launched this month. And we have our fireside chat next week on Wednesdays, where we want to have Beyond Belief teams come together, and any other humanist teams out there who might want to join to network with all the other Beyond Belief teams to see, how can they get involved. And so it's going to be cool. And I think are you speaking on that? I think you are speaking on that call.
Yes, I will be there. Yep.
Yes. So that will be always wonderful to have you.
I'm excited.
I think it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah, we all learned that the food security problem was a lot worse than we all thought it was. Like, tip of the iceberg, kind of bad.
Yeah. And it was definitely exacerbated by COVID.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so that's Wednesday the 26th. Thursday the 27th, we have our press conference outside of Kelly Stargell's office in Lakeland at 6 p.m. And then I'm going to have to race home right after that, because at 8 o'clock, I'm going to go on with Neil, the 604 Atheist, on his show and chat about deconversion and whatever comes up in the 4.5 hour after show that he does. Y'all thought I did long shows. Neil does some serious long shows.
Wow.
I don't know what we're doing next week on Freethought in Florida, but maybe I'll tease this. Did we talk about Free Flow last week? I can't remember. Free Flow has been...
We may have talked about it on the after show.
Oh, that's right. So Free Flow has been scheduled. Details are being finalized. Freethought is the Freethought Florida conference that takes place in Orlando, usually every other year, and then the Freethought cruise in the years between. So this, we're excited to get back together in person and actually be able to hang out and do things and have a real honest to goodness convention. March 4th, 5th, and 6th is 2022 is when that's scheduled for. I am angling. I'm still working on this, but I am angling to get us to do all hosts on stage together, however many that can be here. Freethought in Florida live from Free Flow. I think that would be an absolute blast to do a live show at Free Flow with all of the hosts, or as many as we can get. So I think that'd be good. As we get closer, I'll send you the email address to the person that you can send your wishes to beg for us to do that if you want. But anyway, that's coming up. I have been asked to MC again, so I have to figure out how to outdo my last performance, which is going to be tough because I'm out of voices. I did the one that I do, and so I'm out of ideas now. But anyway, so we'll be back again next Friday with another show. I don't know what we'll be talking about yet, but we'll be here, I promise. And that's it. Thank you, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Shannon, thanks for coming on. And again, you're welcome anytime. Come on and join us. I'm glad you stuck around for the news. We originally, I was thinking, you may not want to. That was great. It was wonderful to have your thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, it was nice. It was having adult talks with adults about adult things.
I know what you mean. That's why this the outro to the show tends to drag on sometimes, because I'm like, oh God, I gotta go back out there where those kids are.
I'm the same. I'm like, I gotta go out there with those cats. I got cats.
Oh well, I will take the cats over the kids anytime. Thanks. I have just the one cat, and she's not allowed to come in here. So that's it for Freethought in Florida this week, though. We'll be back at you next week. Why isn't my music playing? Welcome to live TV, live
technology,
live radio. Ain't it great? And that's it for this week on Freethought in Florida. See how I left a nice break in there so that I can edit it out and nobody will ever know? We'll see you next Friday night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Freethought in Florida is available on YouTube, Facebook, and all the popular podcast players. You can find all the subscribe links at fif.show and send us an email to info@fif.show. Please like, subscribe, and share out all the episodes. Help us reach a broader audience. And of course, remember the 3 most important things. Wash your hands. Get a vaccine. I change it each time. And be kind to each other. That's it.
Oh, yeah, but you don't have to cover your mouth anymore.
Exactly. Yes. Get your vaccine. All right. Be safe. Kids, we'll see you next week on Freethought in Florida.